everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on True Story FM. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Pete Wright.
Oh, Nikki, this is it. It's our last show of the year.
Last show of the year, right before Christmas.
What are we going to do with ourselves?
Go on a little vacation.
Oh.
At home, where we've been.
So we're going to stay. We're going to stay at home, not leave the house.
Yeah,
it's going to be great. We're actually talking about that. We decided to take a little bit of time today and reflect on some of the lessons learned over 2020. I hope we make this interesting and not just self-righteous navel-gazing.
I know, right?
I think our lists of things to talk about are good, and they bring back, believe it or not, some darn fine memories of this year. What a weird thing to come out of the raging dumpster fire that is 2020. But my goodness, we have learned some things, and we're going to talk about it. Before we do that, head over to TakeControlADHD.com. Get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show right there on the website or subscribe to the mailing list, and we will send you an email with a new episode each week. Connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD. And don't forget, we are on a journey to our next Patreon tier. If you haven't considered becoming a member of patreon.com/the ADHD podcast, we would love it if you would consider it right away. As we record this, we need 16 or 14. I don't have it open all of a sudden. It is 16 more people to join us. We'll hit our next tier, and we're on the cusp of releasing our next resource library of all the resources we've talked about on the show. We get a lot of requests all the time of people who want to know when we talked about this such and such a thing. And so we've put all the such and such a things, verified all the links and all the resources we've ever talked about over the last 10 years, and we put them in a big codifile. And thanks to Melissa, Discord Mom, she's done a ton of work already. More to come. We need a little bit more help. Our new goal, 200 patrons to get us over the hump. 16 more, and we are there. So thank you very much. I do have an announcement. Can I talk about an announcement?
Of course.
Speaking of internal navigation, we're changing the time that we record this show in 2021. Nikki?
Yes, we are. Do you want to say why? Or I should say why.
You should say why.
I should say why. Yes. So I'm not exactly ready to talk about this yet. So I'm just going to plant the seed because I've been working really hard in the last month to get it ready to talk about. But I am offering a new service in January, and it's going to be around planning. And I need the time open for Mondays to do one of the planning sessions. So I asked dear Pete Wright, is there any way that we could possibly move our recording time? And
I said yes.
And you said yes.
Spoiler alert. Yeah,
you said yes.
I did.
So so it makes room for me to be able to offer a new service, which we will be talking about at some point very soon. And if you're on my newsletter, you're going to get it there. If you're a Patreon member, you're going to hear it there. So if you're not on one of those things, you might want to sign up so you hear about what's going on in 2020, 2021,
right.
2021.
So, 2021.
Not 2020.
Yes. So we are changing the recording times, moving from right now, it's 10 a.m. U.S. Pacific. It'll be 1 p.m. U.S. Pacific time on Mondays, beginning our first show, January 4th. So don't worry, I will still send out the emails through Patreon and post in Discord and on Facebook. It'll be all the reminders will be there. But just in case, just know we've got to change, and so we appreciate your flexibility. If you'd like to join us for the live stream, we appreciate you there. So anyway, check out all the other resources and access to the live stream and all those goodies at patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. All right, Nikki.
All right.
2020.
2020.
Light it up.
Yes. Last episode of the year. All right.
That's right.
So
What'd you learn? How do you want to talk about this?
I thought we could just take a little bit of time to reflect on our past year, if we really wanted to do that or not. I don't know, but we're here. And, but there were some good things, right? There were some good things, I think, for us to highlight. And there were some, really great experiences that I got to share with some of my clients that I wanted to talk about. And maybe us just kind of talk about some of the shows that really resonated with us too, during this time. So I'll tell you, at the beginning of the year, I think that everybody had high expectations of 2020. It's a great year just because it's 2020. It sounds great. I know that with a couple of my clients, we had set up like 2020 goals, similar to what we talk about when we were talking about the joy kind of bucket list, when we were talking about how to bring joy into your life. Well,
we made those great vision jokes that nobody saw coming.
Yes.
2020. Oh, man.
All of
January was full of amazing jokes.
Yes.
Mwah, chef's kiss.
Thinking that, we're going to get all of this new fun stuff in. And of course, none of that actually happened. So everything changed in March. For me, on a personal level, though, I do want to talk a little bit about the journey I had in January and February, just because many of you know that I had to kind of fight a little bit to get my daughter diagnosed with ADHD, because as you guys have heard in the inattentive episodes, it was very difficult to get her teachers to understand or see what I see, and even her primary doctor. So that was quite the journey of finding a psychiatrist who would sit down and actually do the testing and come back with the results that I had already known, but I needed to have confirmed. So that was certainly a personal issue that we had to go through. March came. March, spring break. It was around spring break here in Oregon, where the schools said, "Oh, we're going to take 2 weeks of spring break, and you'll be back, April something." Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Because we hunkered down. We did our part for sure.
Yeah. And then 2 weeks became the rest of the year. And, but there was still a lot of uncertainty, right, of what was going to happen. And you and I definitely, I thought, got right on it with getting some great guests on the show to talk about COVID.
They were ready.
Yeah. And talk about the anxiety. And, I think all of them. We had James Ochoa, Dr. Michelle Frank, Dr. Dodge Ray. He did an online meditation with me. Hello. Mm-hmm. That's not uncomfortable to do that in front of people. It's kind of weird. Caroline McGuire talking to us about how to talk to our children during this time, which is actually a really fitting conversation too, because prior to her being on, she was talking about social cues and how to help our ADHD children be, more social, or at least be able to interact. And then all of a sudden that's taken away. So that was very interesting. And then Dr. Doug also talked to us about the pandemic anxiety. So it was interesting to get experts' different perspectives and kind of going along with us, as we were in this kind of unknown territory.
Yeah, I think that we had that exuberance of just sort of transitioning from, the stuff we were really excited about, entrepreneurialism. We actually did this episode in February, ADHD accommodations at work and working from home.
Yes.
In February. What?
Yeah.
I did not know that we could read the future, but we could, it turns out. And that is an episode that has gotten, as you can imagine, some traction.
Right.
In terms of skills, there are some things that I've learned from the people that we've talked about, and in terms of skills and behavior changes, the people I keep referencing after this year, absolutely Marilyn Paul and the Haunt List.
Yes.
I loved that episode.
Yes.
Dr. Marilyn Paul was just great. Meeting Russ Barkley. I mean, he was just so great and learned so much about him. His exuberance for being just such a firebrand about ADHD and how dangerous it is was amazing.
So kind, too.
Yeah.
Kind for being
Truly.
Dr. Barkley, the Dr. Barkley. It was such an honor. And yes, one thing that really struck me with his conversation was how serious ADHD and how he referenced it to be the diabetes of mental health. I have told people that over and over again, because that really hit hard. And
I think people understand it. When you hear that comparison, it makes sense.
Right.
So,
right.
My behavior changes, though. I mean, I've also, adapted some of my own personal note taking, thanks to Mike Rohde from Sketchnoting. That was really fun. We did a workshop on that. That was really great. And oh my goodness, Chelsea Brennan from Smart Money Mamas called me Mama. on a podcast. And that was amazing. Plus, the tool she recommended at YNAB, youneedabudget.com, completely changed my life. I think that is yeah. I mean, it's just a number one thing, just because I've been looking for a money metaphor that works with my brain, and that nailed it. I've been looking for years. Nothing has ever worked for me until YNAB.
Yes.
And so I would say that's a real high point for me
I would
in terms
say
of
that
new tools and behaviors.
Absolutely. I've never really had a budget like that where it worked. Like, I've budgeted things, but I'm sure like everybody else, it's like you start it, you look at it, and then it kind of goes away or doesn't work well or whatever. But YNAB has definitely been something that I have stuck with. And even this weekend, I was going through it and I saw a charge and I asked my husband about it. And he's like, oh yeah, that was from this. And then, but I deposited the money and I'm like, oh, you did. I see it's a wash. Like I was able to see what he bought and how he deposited the money to cover it. And I mean, it was just awesome to be able to see all of that. So that is definitely something that changed me as well. And I'll tell you something that changed with me with Marilyn Paul too, was just the importance of rest, taking a day off and not feeling guilty about it. You just take the shoulds out, take the to-do list out. That was really, I think, important to hear.
I put that on one of my big lessons learned too, was just like understanding what rest really is. Mm-hmm. And we can talk about that more in a bit, but that was a big one for me too.
Yeah. I also really appreciated Dr. Michelle Frank and Tara Koch for talking about inattentive ADHD and how the diagnosis can be so easily missed. That tied into certainly the diagnosis of my daughter. But for Tara to come on the show and share her story, that was really brave. And, when you're not used to podcasting, you're not used to talking about yourself, that can be really scary. And so I really appreciated her coming in and being so honest about that.
Well, you couldn't tell.
No.
I mean, she's an old hat at this stuff. It seems like you would never know that any of this was new to her. She's great.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, great things.
Absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about my clients because, oh my gosh, they've been amazing during this time. Mm-hmm. The first thing I noticed when I was working with clients is how much they related to the pandemic. Like how so many people said, this is how I feel every day. It's hard to focus every day. And now people are telling me it's hard to focus for them because of this, this, and this. And so it was really interesting to hear how some of my clients were able to really share what they knew to help others. And there was one of my clients who's a doctorate student, and she was actually even recognized at the end of the last semester of spring semester for helping other people by putting together study halls and body double sessions and check-ins so that people would stay on schedule. And she did that. And that was really cool to be able to see how they can take their own daily experience and help others in times that, maybe aren't used to having to have a body double all the time or whatever. Yeah. So that was really cool to see. Resilience is something I think every ADHDer has, and seeing the clients adjust from working from home. I had many people. That was probably the biggest struggle that I saw with my clients is here I am. I'm used to working in an office. I'm used to having that structure that, some accountability. And now I'm just at home. And many of my people that I work with live on their own. So they didn't have necessarily a family or a partner. They were by themselves, which is really hard to be that isolated and also to have really no structure, that you're, and now you have to adapt to this, which is kind of an ADHD nightmare in some cases, so, it's important, to see how many of them were able to figure it out and were able to ask for help. And they were so much more compassionate with themselves and really being able to see, okay, I'm not the only one dealing with this. It doesn't have to be perfect. The expectations aren't necessarily the same. Just all of the kind of conversations we would go through week after week and seeing them being able to adapt was really awesome. It was just really inspiring. And I also just want to say, thank you. Thank you so much for my clients. I learned from them every day, how amazing they are and how inspirational they are. So after me having a hard day, I would, think back and think, okay, I can do this. I can also sit in the unknown and be uncomfortable. And they kept showing up. I can keep showing up. They helped me just as much as I helped them. And, so that was something that I think I know I'm very grateful for and appreciate from the year is that I didn't feel like I was alone either. I was going through this with the people I was meeting with every day.
I was thinking about that too. I mean, in terms of the year being terrible, I'll also remember it for a lot of really, really good things that came out of the year. And maybe it was because of the extended, continuous kind of downtime and reflection time, right? Like there were weirdly fewer internal distractions because of all the giant external distractions. Yeah. And I managed to make some kind of significant change. And we rebranded Rash Pixel, my podcast company, to True Story FM. Unreal synchronicity with Melissa, Discord mom. I could not be happier with that, what came out of that. I mean, she's just super inspirational and helping me revision what the company that I do, that I sort of shepherd here does. I took on a business partner in Andy Nelson who doesn't have ADHD, and I'm consistently reminded of my relationship with you because it's just like easy, it's just one of those things. It's a calming balance. And I think from finding somebody who's kind of another accountability partner, is really just sort of energizing, even when energy is low. And we launched new podcasts. We launched Mission Forward, which is a podcast about social justice and equity, and The Change Paradox with Dr. Dodge Ray. Yes. And it's getting some great comments and reviews, and very happy with that. And you were on it, and it was great. How to Split a Toaster, a divorce podcast we launched. We're finally back around to What's That Smell season 5 with Tommy, and just really excited about the growth. But mostly, to your point, I'm so inspired by the way my clients navigated COVID, right? Demonstrating grace and generosity with their clients and the people they work with. It made me so proud to do what I do and be involved with the people with whom I share orbit.
Right. Yeah,
because this is hard for everybody. And it was just so powerful to watch, everybody interact and try to keep each other afloat. So
yes, very much so.
For me.
Well, and more on a personal lessons, not just from work, but just personally going through 2020, I've learned to take care of my own mental health, saying no when I need to. I honestly don't remember which episode, but there was something that triggered in me when I was feeling very overwhelmed. And I remember thinking, I just need to sit where I am right now. And I need to just be here and be okay with that, and be okay with being unsettled. Letting other people know what I need. I remember telling my family at one point, I just can't talk anymore. I've talked all day. I need to just be alone because that's part of my introverted self. But most importantly, I'm a mother of teens. And parenting teens at the beginning of this year was fine. It was no big deal. But it got harder and harder and harder. And the last couple of months, it's been extremely, extremely difficult. And, I've had to just surrender and breathe and remember what I have control over and what I don't. And honestly pray that we're all going to get through this okay. And, it's not just about COVID, but it's very true when, especially teenagers, when you see statistics out there about them being isolated, depression comes into play, anxiety comes into play, social media, just a lot of different things. And so I think it's really important to reach out for help when you need it. Get what you need and not feel guilty about it. I started doing HelloFresh meals about 2 months ago, and I am not feeling guilty about it. Because it does make things easier. So, and also like what Marilyn Paul said, being okay if I just need a day to do nothing. I just need to rest and be okay with that. So yeah, I think there was a lot of good things in that too. And not always having to be positive. I think that's, it's hard because my nature is I want to be positive and I want to be like, oh, look at the bright side. But sometimes it's hard to do that because it just takes too much energy. And so it's okay to just let that energy be saved for a different day. And,
Yeah.
just be in it.
I had those. I definitely had that one for me. I when you think that 2020 is, for me personally, is largely marked by COVID, and it completely rewired my relationship with physical and emotional health.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just it was so incredibly debilitating for just long enough. But patience, right? As much as I'm dealing with like long haul stuff, I'm learning patience every day, and I kind of am surprised that here I am at my age, still learning lessons that at some level feel rudimentary. It's humbling, right? It's really humbling. Rest, we talked about Marilyn Paul's lessons for us. Rest means rest. And I wasn't doing this well. My rest would be not working, but it would be doing other things.
Right.
And that's not what rest is. And learning how to rest, like perspective has demonstrated repeatedly the value of rest for me. And you talked about parenting teens. I would say as a spin-off of that, learning to be present through new kinds of grief and anger with those closest to me.
Yeah, that's a good
right because they're like, they don't know how to do this any better than I do, and I know I'm mad and testy, and I'm but figuring out how to be present and patient with one another, living in close quarters for so long, without the interaction of other faces and hugs and things like that. I feel like I'm learning some lessons there too. Like how do you express kindness when weirdly you're the last person they want to see right now.
I know, right?
Like I am the vessel of that frustration for 3 other people I live with sometimes,
right?
As they are to me. So,
and kudos to all of those parents that have young kids too. Oh my.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stress there, with working from home and daycare, or probably no daycare. So trying to figure out how to do all of that and being an online teacher. So yes, I mean, we've all had our struggles for sure.
I have one more section that you didn't have.
Oh, tell me more about this.
It's new. It's not grim either. It's exciting. It's new tools for 2020. Things that you did and adopted and invested in that changed the way you work for 2020.
Can I just tell you something before you start this? So Rome Research, one of my clients was like, I know exactly what Pete's talking about. He was right with you in that whole conversation.
Totally. Oh, yeah. No, I should share a link. I read a Twitter storm about Rome Research and their software development methodology, and it's challenged, and it makes me really nervous about Rome. It's an amazing tool, and I did so anyway. My new tools for 2020. Yes. This is what I've done. First of all, I migrated my notes to Obsidian. Obsidian. Yes. Obsidian. Don't do this, Nikki. Okay. I'm going to put a link in the show notes. I need you not to click on it. Okay. It's going to break your brain. Okay. And I recognize that's not that you can't do it, because I think you would love it. I think you would lose patience in it very quickly.
Yes. And I have a lot to do this week before I go on vacation.
You have a lot to do.
I have a lot to do. So
don't click on Obsidian. But I really like Obsidian. It gives me what I liked about Rome Research. I started experience data loss with Rome Research, and part of it is because It operates 100% in the browser for people who know what I'm talking about. If you, like I did, migrated thousands of files of text files into Roam Research and start typing on a block and suddenly the text goes away, it's just gone. It's just gone. And part of that is because it operates in the browser. It is incredibly fragile. And I just learned this weekend. So,
are you saying Obsidian took over Evernote?
Yeah, I'm out of Evernote.
Okay, now I am so curious because now I got to go check out Obsidian.
No, it's going to be a lot.
Really?
You can't. It's basically a glorified wiki, but what I love about it is it lives on my system and it's a series of just text files, and Obsidian puts them all together, and it shows you this graph and same thing with Roam Research. Like the whole benefit of these two tools is they show you a graph of how your notes are connected to one another. So every time I type ADHD podcast, I can see a visual graph with arrows that show like the weighted relevance between these two notes when they reference one another, even if I don't intend to reference them. So you can start building like a set of research notes that relate to topics, and it uncovers connections you never thought of. And it's amazing. So I put 5,000 notes into Obsidian, and I have this graph that looks like a brain, and I can zoom in and click around in it and see like, what have I been working on over the years? What are the like subject areas that I am constantly coming back to? And I find it incredibly inspirational, right? It's teaching me about my experience, and I never saw it coming. So that's Obsidian. It's a nerd tool. It's open source. It's free. It's definitely free. And there you go. So I got out of Evernote. I am still looking for a paperless system, and I think I'm going to go back to the metal on this. I think I'm going to be using just OCR PDFs living in my file system without and just using the file system search to search for documents. Are you talking about file system
like in your computer? Like
in the computer.
In the computer, not Dropbox. Just in your computer.
For mine, it would be on my. I have a network storage device, and it would all live on my network storage device, which I feel like is probably the simplest and cheapest way for me to go. So I'm reducing expenses. I was such an Evernote fan for so long, and it's just they're doing a ton of great work over there. And if you don't have the momentum or inertia to look for something else, don't do it, because it's a lot of work. You got to really want to move.
Yeah.
But
you can't just move halfway.
You can't move halfway. So I'm out of Evernote, and I think I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
think I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
I adopted a new tool called Good Links, which is a wonderful little app that I use to replace my Instapaper kind of read later services. I really like Good Links. It creates a little share extension in your browser, and you hit it and send URLs to Good Links, and it downloads the content of the page so that you can read it offline later and save it in your own place. It's equivalent to the Evernote web clipper, but Good Links sort of replaced that for me.
And does it go into a category, or just goes into an inbox and then you categorize it?
You can, even as you're doing it, it brings up a little share sheet, and you type in the tags categories. So if I'm downloading an article on anxiety for What's That Smell, I'll type, the tag will be WTS and another tag WTS 502. So that I can look at a tag for all the resources that I'm culling together for the second episode of season 5, and they'll all show up under that tag, so I can keep them all in one place.
That
very,
sounds
very handy.
Interesting.
It is very interesting. I've migrated all my design work to the Affinity products after years and years and years and investment with Adobe. Mostly, I'm still a Lightroom user, but a lot of my photo and design work is in Affinity and a little bit in Sketch. And so that's a big change in 2020. I've organized pretty much my whole business with Coda.io, which I love. They're doing great work. Mm-hmm. And of course, YNAB, You Need a Budget is great. So those are my. I know I surprised you with this. Do you have any new tools for 2020 that you use?
Well, YNAB, obviously, we've already talked about.
Yeah.
And no, but I'm really curious about your Good Links. And I am curious about Obsidian. First of all, I think it's a cool name, Obsidian.
It is a cool name.
It is a cool name.
Yeah.
And the problem I have with Evernote is it's just not working for me quite the way I need it to.
Yeah.
So I definitely think I'm in a place where I need to review like where I keep things and how I keep them. And I use Google Docs a lot. Like I have that a lot. I use that a lot, and Dropbox, but it's almost like everybody else. It's like it's too many things in too many different areas that I don't always know where to find stuff, and that gets frustrating. So I think I'm in the market of finding some new things. So you're giving me some ideas.
All right, maybe 2021. This is going to be a whole new conversation with Nikki Kinzer. Mm-hmm.
I am sticking with things though as my task manager.
Yeah, things is great. Oh, I have one more that was introduced to me, but will be I think something for 2021, and that's a new app called Craft, which is brand new and getting a ton of buzz. And honestly, I think that might be a solution for you because it fits your design sensibilities. I think you will look at it and find it beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Is it new?
So
I can't get it now.
Yeah, it's available. You can get it now.
I can get it now.
You can get it. There's a
Oh boy, I still have a lot of work to do this week, though. I have to remember I have to get this stuff done. So
this is going to be great.
It is. On a closing note, I think, thinking about going into the new year, I have a lot of hope. And I think that it's great, these vaccines, whether I don't care really what your opinion is on them, because that's not what this is about, but there are vaccines coming, which is great. And I think, as we talked about what we learned before, taking one day at a time and being okay with that. So I'm not planning a whole lot right now, except for these things that Pete has now, put in my brain, with new, software.
I live to serve.
You love to serve. But again, just want to say thank you to everyone who has been with us this last year and the years before that and the years before that and hopefully coming along with us in this journey going forward. And we just really appreciate all of you. And thank you for all the nice notes and the comments, because we thrive on those, right? I mean, we get these little nice comments and it's just like, it makes our heart, just warm and so thankful for what we do. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, let's end it on a high note. Toast somebody you love, and we'll see you in 2020. Thanks,
2021.
Everybody. 2021. Oh my gosh, I've already done it.
We
sure appreciate it. For this year and next year, we appreciate you downloading and listening to this show. Thanks for all your time and attention. Don't forget, if you want to chat about it, head over to the Show Talk channel in Discord. You can join us over there. First stop's going to be patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. Then you can jump over to the Show Notes channel or Show Talk channel and hang out with us there. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. We'll see you right back here next year on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.